Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today isn't just about facts or dates. We aren't just looking at a stack of papers. We are turning the lens around. We're looking directly at you.
That's right. Today is about the architecture of the self. It's about identity. It's about that massive, sometimes terrifying, usually exhausting question that every single human being has to face. And it usually hits you like a freight train right around your age.
Yeah, who are you, really?
Exactly.
And to really get into the headspace of this question, I want to try a little experiment. I want you to close your eyes, if you can, transport yourself back in time. It's the mid-1970s. You're standing in a crowded concert hall.
Okay, I'm there.
It's the CBGB Club in New York.
Yeah.
The air is hot, it's sticky, and it smells like a mix of stale sweat, cheap beer, and aerosol hairspray.
Very visceral. I can smell it.
It has to be, because the lights are flashing, the noise is absolutely deafening, and on stage you have the punk band, the Ramones. They're in leather jackets, ripped jeans, just radiating this raw, aggressive energy.
Total chaos.
It looks like chaos, it looks like noise. But underneath that wall of sound, they are asking a question that I guarantee every single person listening has asked themselves at 2 in the morning while staring at the ceiling.
So what's the lyric?
They're screaming, "Take my hand, please help me, man," because I'm looking for something to believe in, and I don't know where to start.
Looking for something to believe in. Wow, that hits hard.
It really does.
That right there, that's the core journey of growing up. It is the fundamental building block of identity. When you strip away all the noise of the punk rock, that is the human condition right there.
It really is. And that is our mission for this deep dive. We have a massive stack of sources here. We've got textbook chapters on political theory, case studies, biographies of tortured artists, and notes on philosophers who died hundreds of years ago.
And we're going to use them to explore the connection between identity, which is, who you are, and ideology, which is how you see the world.
By the end of this, we want to equip you with the tools to answer a very specific, very difficult question. On which beliefs and values should my ideology be based?
It's a big one.
It's huge. But before we dive into the deep end, we need to do a little vocabulary check. Because people throw these words around all the time on the news or social media, and they often use them wrong.
For sure.
We're going to be using 3 words a lot today: beliefs, values, and ideology. Let's break those down so nobody gets left behind.
Sure. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. First, you have beliefs. These are simply the things we accept as true. They are the assumptions we make about reality. For example, the sun will rise tomorrow is a belief.
Or hard work leads to success.
That's a great example. That's a belief.
Okay, so a belief is a statement about how you think reality functions. What about values?
So values are about judgment. They're your ideas about what is good, bad, right, or wrong. So if your belief is hard work leads to success, your value might be ambition is a good thing or laziness is a bad thing. Values are kind of like your moral compass.
Got it. So belief is what is and value is what should be.
Precisely. And then when you stack all those beliefs and values together into a coherent structure, you get an ideology.
The big picture.
The big picture. An ideology is a system of thought. It's the framework that explains how the world works, how we should live together, and what society should look like in the future.
Okay, so if your brain was a computer, the beliefs and values are the code, and the ideology is the operating system.
That is a perfect analogy. And just like operating systems, you've got your Mac, your Windows, your Linux ideologies generally fall on a spectrum. They aren't all compatible.
And that brings us to our first big section, the foundation. We need to talk about the 2 massive poles on this spectrum, individualism and collectivism.
Right. This is usually where people start defining their politics, but looking at our sources, it's so much deeper than just who you vote for.
It feels almost primal.
It is deeply ingrained. Let's look at individualism first. This operates on the me frequency. It values personal achievement, self-reliance, individual rights. The core idea is that the fundamental unit of society is the individual person.
I've got a quote here from our source material that just sums this up perfectly. It says, "I feel that my life is directed primarily by what I want to achieve for myself."
That's it in a nutshell. It's the idea that you are the captain of your own ship. Your success is your own, your failure is your own. But then if you swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, you have collectivism.
The US frequency.
Exactly. This values the group's goals, cooperation, shared wealth. The core belief here is that the group is responsible for the welfare of its members.
You know, in the sources, there was this survey that students could take to see where they land, and it had these interesting statements to test your gut reaction. One was, I feel that the most important thing in the world is for people to be themselves, even if other people disapprove.
Which sounds lovely, doesn't it? It sounds like a motivational poster.
It totally does.
But that is a classic individualist statement. It prioritizes the self over social harmony. A collectivist might look at that and ask, but what if being yourself hurts the community? What if being yourself disrupts the peace?
That's a really good point. A collectivist statement from that same survey was, the group is responsible for its members' welfare.
Or, I feel that society is only as strong as its weakest link. If you find yourself nodding along to that, you're leaning towards the idea that we're all interconnected and my success means nothing if my neighbor is starving.
But here's the tricky part. When I read these lists, I find myself nodding at things on both sides. I want to be myself, but I also want to help my neighbor.
And that is the crucial point. Real life is rarely 100% individualist or 100% collectivist. Most of us, most societies, live in what we could call the gray area.
We toggle back and forth.
We do, depending on the situation.
The gray area. This is where things get messy, but also where the real thinking happens. But our sources bring up a really heavy example to illustrate what happens when we try to eliminate that gray area completely. We have to talk about the aftermath, the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Yeah, this is a critical case study in what's called binary thinking. After the attacks on September 11, 2001, there was this incredible fear and confusion everywhere. And in that moment, President George W. Bush made a very famous statement to the world. He said, "You're either with us or against us."
Talk about drawing a line in the sand.
It was absolute. It was black and white. And psychologically, we have to understand why that happens. When people are terrified, the gray area feels unsafe. Nuance feels dangerous.
You just want simple answers.
You crave simplicity. Tell me who the bad guys are so I can fight them.
But our source material asks us to step back and look at that critically. Was there a gray area in that situation?
Of course there was. There were nations who condemned the terrorism but didn't support the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. There were people who wanted justice but not war. By saying, you're with us or against us, that binary thinking just erased all those complex perspectives. It forced a choice that didn't reflect reality.
It's a warning, really. Whenever someone tries to tell you there are only two options, your alarm bell should start ringing.
Absolutely.
So, for everyone listening, I want you to do a quick self-check. Think about your own life. Do you prefer team sports, where everyone has to coordinate like a machine to win? That's kind of collectivist training. Or do you prefer solo competitions, like, say, track or tennis, where if you lose, it's entirely on you?
Oh, that's a good one. Or think about a group project for school. Do you hate them because you always feel like you end up doing all the work for the same grade?
Guilty.
That's your inner individualist screaming. Or do you like them because you can pool your talents and make something way better than you could alone? That's your inner collectivist.
I love that. It's not just politics, it's how you do your homework. Now let's shift gears. We've talked about the spectrum, but how do we end up where we end up on it? It's not random.
No, it's constructed. Our source material visualizes identity as a puzzle. Each piece is a different factor that influences what we believe. And we are going to break down 6 of the biggest factors, starting with one of the most powerful, culture and tradition.
Culture is a huge one. It's the beliefs, customs, and practices of a group. And we have a great story in our notes about an artist named William Kurelik.
William Kurelik, he was a Ukrainian Albertan painter. And his story is this perfect, almost painful example of the clash between individual identity and cultural expectation.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Imagine the harsh, cold prairies in the early 20th century. Kurelik's parents were hardworking immigrants. They were farmers. Their entire culture valued practical labor, survival, working the land. If you weren't sweating, you weren't really working.
Yeah, and here comes William, their son, who just wants to paint pictures.
Exactly. You can just imagine the dinner table conversations. His parents actively discouraged his art. They thought it was a total waste of time. They wanted him to farm, to do something practical. But, and here's the twist, even though he rebelled against their career advice, if you look at his paintings,
They're all about the prairies.
they're all about his culture. He painted the very farm life, the very Ukrainian heritage that he was struggling against. His identity was wrapped up in the culture even while he was fighting it.
So you can't just take it off like a coat.
No, it's in your skin.
We also have a perspective here from Mary Thomas, a Nisconlith elder from British Columbia. Her take on culture is a bit different.
Her perspective shifts us to a more collectivist view of culture. She talks about the importance of passing values down to children, not just for the sake of, tradition, but for literal survival. She says the values of our people have ensured our existence.
Wow.
In her view, culture isn't just a hobby or a painting style. It's the technology that kept her people alive for thousands of years. It's a survival guide.
And tied deeply to that survival is our second factor, language.
Oh, you cannot separate language from identity. The source makes a really strong point here. If you lose your language, you lose a piece of who you are. This is why you see francophone schools outside of Quebec fighting so hard to preserve French education.
It's not just about grammar.
No, it's about maintaining a francophone worldview, a way of seeing the world that's embedded in the language itself.
There's a really powerful moment in the notes here from a woman named Elaine Renee Tambour. She's talking about indigenous languages, specifically South Slavey. She runs a children's center, and she describes what happens when the kids start learning their traditional language.
She says the children become calm and confident.
That stood out to me, calm and confident. Why confidence? What's the connection?
Well, think about it. A language contains all the codes of a culture, the specific humor, the history, the particular way of describing the snow or family relationships. When those kids can speak South Slavey with their elders, they aren't just communicating information.
They're connecting to a lineage.
Exactly. They realize they aren't just these random kids, they are part of a long, strong chain. That knowledge builds a secure identity. That's why the government of Nunavut is so committed to making Inuktitut the working language. It's a defense against assimilation.
Okay, moving on to the third piece of our identity puzzle, religion and spirituality. And the sources make an interesting distinction here between organized religion, like the institutions of Christianity or Islam, and spirituality, which is more of a personal connection to the sacred.
But often people blend them. Identity isn't always neat and tidy. We have a compelling excerpt from Noah Augustine, a Mi'kmaq writer. He describes his own spiritual practice in a way that blends his indigenous heritage with the Catholicism that was, introduced to his people.
I have the quote right here. He says, "Rather than accepting bread from the holy priest, I smoke a ceremonial pipe to come into communion with the Great Spirit."
And then he adds, "This is how we pray." It's such a beautiful example of syncretism. He is taking the structure of communion, the idea of connecting with the divine and the spirituality of the pipe, and creating a belief system that rings true for him.
He's hacking the ideology to fit his identity.
He is. It's a conscious choice.
All right. Factor number 4 is one we often overlook because it's just there, all around us. It's environment and land. This one is really interesting because it contrasts two very different worldviews.
It does. On one hand, you have the perspective of stewardship, which is often found in indigenous worldviews. This is the belief that the land is sacred and humans are caretakers, not owners. The land has its own agency.
And on the other hand,
you have the corporate or capitalist standpoint. In this view, land is a resource. It's real estate. It's something to be controlled, developed, fenced off, and exploited for profit.
And the environment doesn't just shape our wallets, it shapes our emotions. There is a story in the notes about Jolan Keller Inkpen, a Hungarian immigrant arriving on the Canadian prairies.
This is a heartbreaking little moment. Imagine coming from Hungary, which is lush and green, with fruit-bearing trees, cozy villages tucked into valleys. And then you get off the train in Alberta in the early 1900s.
It's just flat and empty.
She stood in the yard and saw the vast open prairie where you could see for miles and miles, and she just broke down crying. It was the shock of the emptiness. And think about how that shapes you, your values. To survive in that harsh, open environment, you have to adapt. You have to become tougher, more self-reliant. The geography itself actually sculpts your personality.
Let's move to factor number 5, gender. This is a huge one for identity because society has so many rules about it, and those rules are constantly shifting.
Appropriate rules. That is the key phrase. For centuries, society has dictated what is appropriate for men and what is appropriate for women. But this is also where we see how ideologies can be changed over time through struggle. The source discusses feminism and highlights the person's case.
The famous 5. Emily Murphy. This is a legendary Canadian legal battle.
It really is. Picture this. It's the 1920s. Emily Murphy is the first female judge in the entire British Empire. She's sitting on the bench, ready to hear a case. And a male lawyer stands up. He doesn't argue the case. He looks at her and says, "You have no right to be here."
Why? Because she was incompetent?
No, because, legally speaking, she wasn't a person. Under the British North America Act of 1867, the word persons was legally interpreted to mean only men.
That is just, it feels like it's from a different planet.
It was less than 100 years ago. So Murphy and 4 other women, the famous 5, took this all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, and they lost.
They lost.
The Supreme Court said, sorry, you're not persons. So they went over their heads to the British Privy Council in London, and in 1929, they won. That legal victory didn't just change the law, it forced a rewrite of the ideology of the entire nation. It shifted the value of women in society.
And this isn't just ancient history. The source connects this to Kuwaiti women in 2005 and 2006.
Right. It was only then that women in Kuwait gained the right to vote and run for office for the first time. There is a great quote from Dr. Khalida Khader, one of the first female candidates. She said, "I have broken the ice." It's a powerful reminder that this fight for identity and recognition is happening on different timelines all over the world.
Finally, factor number 6. And it's the one we are all swimming in right now. Probably the one influencing our listeners the most. Media.
You cannot talk about media without mentioning Marshall McLuhan. He's an Edmonton-born philosopher who gave us one of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood phrases in history. The medium is the message.
Right. I feel like everyone hears that and nods. That almost nobody really knows what it means. Can you unpack it?
It means that how we receive information is more important than the information itself. So the source uses the example of body image. If you're reading a magazine, the medium is print. You're passively looking at professionally shot photos of unrealistic thinness. That has an impact.
Okay, but let's update that for today. Let's talk about the algorithm.
Perfect example. If you are on TikTok or Instagram, the medium is an algorithm designed to keep you scrolling. It learns what you look at. So if you pause on an influencer's post with a perfect body for just 3 seconds longer than usual,
boom, it feeds you 10 more just like it.
Exactly. It creates an echo chamber. The message of that medium is, this is what everyone looks like except you. It shapes your value system about beauty and self-worth much, much faster and more powerfully than a monthly magazine ever could.
That's terrifying. We also have a classic case study in the notes about Camel cigarettes.
Joe Camel. For years, they used this cool, suave, cartoon camel to sell cigarettes. The courts eventually ruled that this was directly targeting youth. They were trying to implant the value that smoking is cool into kids' brains before they were old enough to critically think about lung cancer. It shows how media can be used to shape ideology for profit.
And then you have groups like Adbusters who try to subvert those ads.
Right, they fight back against the message.
So when you look at all these pieces, culture, language, religion, land, gender, media, you start to see that who am I isn't just a simple question. It's a puzzle made of all these external forces pressing down on you.
Exactly. You are a mosaic of what you've been told, where you live, and what you've seen. But, and this is the big but, you still have a choice. You can choose how to arrange those pieces.
Okay, so we've got the pieces of the puzzle. Now let's get philosophical. We're going to step into section 3, the philosophers.
This is my favorite part. The source sets this up as a big argument about human nature. Because before you can decide how to run a government or an economy, you have to decide what humans are actually like deep down. Are we good? Are we bad? Are we smart? Are we selfish?
So let's set the scene. I want to invite you to a dinner party. It's a dark room lit by candlelight. There's plenty of wine on the table, but the mood is tense. We have 3 guests, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And they are arguing about what humans would be like in a state of nature.
So, a world with no police, no laws, no schools, no Twitter, just humans in the wild.
Exactly. First up, sitting at the head of the table, looking a bit shaky, is Thomas Hobbes. He is our pessimist.
He looks like he hasn't slept in a week.
He hasn't. Hobbes lived through the English Civil War. He literally looked out his window and saw neighbors killing neighbors. He saw total chaos. So he slams his fist on the table and says, in a state of nature, life is nasty, brutish, and short.
He thinks we are basically monsters.
He thinks we are fearful and violent. We are driven by self-preservation above all else. If I have apple and you want it, you will kill me for it, unless someone with a bigger stick stops you.
So what's his solution? How do we stop all the killing?
He says we need a Leviathan, a monster to tame the monsters. We need a dictator or a king with absolute power to keep us safe. In his view, we have to trade our freedom for security. We give up our rights so we don't die.
Okay, that's bleak, very bleak. But sitting across from him, looking much more relaxed, is John Locke.
He's our rationalist. Locke just shakes his head at Hobbes. He says, Thomas, you're traumatized. Humans aren't monsters. We are rational. We are intelligent and reasonable.
So Locke trusts people to figure things out.
He does. He believes that even in the wild, we would mostly get along because we can use reason. So his government looks completely different. He is the father of modern democracy. He says government only exists to protect three things: life, liberty, and property.
And here is the kicker, the thing that makes Locke so revolutionary. He says that if the government fails to protect those things,
We can fire them. We can overthrow them. That's the basis of popular consent. We, the people, give the government power and we can take it away.
a radical idea.
Totally.
Yeah.
Then, sitting at the end of the table, kind of rolling his eyes at both of them, is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He's our idealist.
Rousseau is the romantic of the group. He raises his glass and says, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains."
That is such a bar dropper of a quote. What does he mean by that?
He means that Hobbes and Locke are both wrong because they are looking at civilized people. Rousseau believed that humans are naturally good. It's civilization that messed us up. He thought that things like private property created jealousy, greed, and corruption. We aren't naturally bad. We are corrupted by society.
So what's his fix? Do we all go back to living in caves?
Not quite. He wanted to strip away the layers of corruption. He believed in the general will, that the people should rule directly, not just through representatives. He wanted a pure, direct democracy where everyone decides together, trying to get back to that natural goodness.
It's just amazing how these three guys who lived hundreds of years ago basically drew the blueprints for every kind of government we have today. You have your authoritarians who follow Hobbes,
You have your liberal Democrats who follow Locke.
and you have your radical socialists and anarchists who are inspired by Rousseau.
They absolutely did. And that transitions us perfectly to Section 4, Structuring Society. Because your belief about human nature, that dinner party argument, determines the kind of structure you build.
Let's bring this down to the classroom level. The sources mention a court case that is very, very relevant to our listeners. It's a case of Fitzgerald v. Alberta from 2002.
Yes, this is a great example of Locke versus Hobbes in the real world. You have two Edmonton teenagers, Aaron Fitzgerald and Christine Jerem-Singh. They are 16 years old.
They are frustrated.
Extremely. They're working jobs, so they're paying income tax. They are learning all about politics in social studies class. They are smart, capable young women. But they can't vote.
So they decide to sue the government.
They do. They launch a charter challenge. Their argument is pure John Locke. We are rational. We are capable. We contribute to society. We are impacted by government decisions. Why don't we have a say? They argued that setting the voting age at 18 was unconstitutional age discrimination.
I could hear the grade 12s cheering right now. But, spoiler alert.
They lost. The court ruled against them. The judge basically said that while some 16-year-olds are ready to vote, as a group, age 18 is a reasonable cutoff for maturity.
That feels like a bit of a Hobbesian slapdown.
Yeah.
You're not ready to handle this power yet. We need to maintain order.
It is. It shows that our society is always trying to balance these ideas. We value democracy, which is from Locke, but we also value order and what we define as maturity, which is a bit more Hobbes. And sometimes those values clash in court.
Now, what about economic structures? This is usually where the individualism versus collectivism fight gets really real.
Right. Let's look at the two poles again. On one side, you have pure capitalism. This is rooted in individualism. The mechanism here is supply and demand. The government, ideally, stays out of it.
So let's take a fast food restaurant. If they can't find workers for $15 an hour, what happens?
They have to raise the wage to $18, maybe $20. Not because the government passed a law, but because they need bodies to flip the burgers. The market decides. The motivation is profit for the owner and self-reliance for the worker.
And on the complete other side.
You have communism or a planned economy. This is rooted in collectivism. Here, the government intervenes heavily to ensure outcomes.
So, in that system, the government might look at housing. They might say, it doesn't matter if you can't afford rent. Everyone deserves a roof over their head.
Correct. The government owns the housing and provides it to everyone, regardless of their job. The motivation isn't profit, it's equality and the common good. The downside, of course, is that without the profit motive, you might get inefficiency or a lack of innovation.
And again, almost no country is 100% one or the other. Canada has a capitalist market, but we also have public health care, which is collectivist. We live in the gray area.
Before we leave structures, we have to mention informal social structures. These are the unwritten rules.
Stuff that isn't illegal, but will definitely get you some weird looks.
Exactly. The source uses the very funny example of belching. In some cultures, a loud belch after a meal is a huge compliment. It tells the chef, I am full and I am satisfied.
In my house growing up, that would get you sent from the table.
Same here. In Western culture, it's considered rude. These aren't laws, you won't go to jail for it, but they are powerful structures that govern our behavior and our identity just as much as tax laws do.
Okay, moving into section 5, we need to look at the themes of ideology. We've talked about beliefs and structures, but what are the big umbrellas these ideas fall under?
There are 3 main themes highlighted in our deep dive material: nation, class, and relationship to land.
Let's start with nation.
Yeah.
And I want to clarify something because this confuses students all the time. What is the difference between a nation and a country?
That is a crucial distinction. A country is a political entity. It has borders, a passport, a seat at the UN. It's the lines on a map. A nation is different. A nation is the people. It's a group with a shared sense of belonging, a shared language, a shared history. You can have a nation without a country.
The source gives the example of the Quebecois.
Right. The Canadian government officially recognized the Quebecois as a nation within a united Canada. They are acknowledging that unique cultural identity, that sense of peoplehood.
But then you also have First Nations.
Exactly. The very term First Nations asserts that these groups, the Cree, the Blackfoot, the Mi'kmaq nations, in their own right, they have sovereignty, they have history, they have systems of governance, even if they currently exist within the borders of the country called Canada. Ideologies often form around protecting and preserving the nation.
Then there is class. This is how society is divided up: working class, middle class, upper class. But the source gives us a very specific and very thorny case study: the caste system in India.
This is such a powerful example because it shows a direct clash of values. The caste system is a hereditary hierarchy. You are born into a caste, and for centuries that determined your whole life. At the very bottom, you have the Dalits, who were formerly known as untouchables.
But the modern Indian government is trying to change this. Right? They're trying to fix thousands of years of systemic discrimination.
They are. They have implemented a form of affirmative action, reserving a certain number of university spots and government jobs for people from the lower castes. They're saying we need to force equality. But this has sparked a massive ideological debate.
We have quotes from 2 students that illustrate this perfectly.
Yeah.
This is the battle between merit and equity.
Yes. On one side, you have a student named Deepika Gupta. She says, I came here under my own merit. I don't want anyone thinking I'm here because of a quota.
That is the pure individualist argument. Judge me on my grades, not my background.
Exactly. But then you have Nitin Kambal, who is from a lower caste. He argues, poor students can prove that they're able and intelligent. All they need is an opportunity.
That is the collectivist argument. He's saying the game was rigged against my family for 2,000 years. We need help just to get to the starting line so we can compete.
It's an incredibly difficult dilemma. Is it fair to hold back a high-performing student to make room for a disadvantaged one? Or is it unfair not to help the disadvantaged one? Your answer depends entirely on your ideology.
And the third theme is relationship to land, which we touched on earlier. It's that constant tension between an ideology of environmentalism, that the land is sacred and fragile, and an ideology of industrial progress, that the land is a resource to be used.
And as we face climate change, that ideological battle is going to become the defining conflict of your generation.
Wow. We've covered a staggering amount of ground today, from punk rock in New York City to immigrant farmers in Alberta, from ancient Greek philosophy to modern-day teenage lawsuits.
It's a lot to process, but that's the point. Identity isn't a simple tweet, it's a novel. It has chapters and plot twists and a whole cast of characters.
Before we let you go, we want to end with a story that kind of brings all of this together. It's about a man named Grant McEwen.
Grant McEwen. He was Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, the Queen's official representative. A very big deal, but his ideology was fascinating.
The source calls it a balancing act.
He was a high-ranking official, very successful, a true individualist in that sense, but he lived incredibly simply. He jogged early every morning, he ate simple porridge for breakfast, he cleaned his own office because he didn't think he was too good for a broom.
And there's that famous story about the bus.
Yes. He was being driven in his official vice-regal car, the flags on the hood, the whole works. They passed a city bus that had slid into a ditch in the winter snow. McEwen makes his driver stop the car. He gets out of this fancy car in his suit, and he helps the strangers push the bus out of the ditch.
That image gives me goosebumps every time.
It represents what the source calls Canadianism, a kind of balance. He valued individual success. He was the lieutenant governor, after all. But he never lost his collectivist responsibility to his neighbors. He balanced the me and the U.S. perfectly.
So let's bring it home. Here is your recap of the key ideas from today.
Number 1, your ideology is the operating system for your brain, and it's built on your beliefs and values.
Number 2, we all exist on a spectrum between individualism, you're the captain of your own ship, and collectivism. We're all in the same boat. Most of us live in the gray area.
Number 3, your identity is a puzzle shaped by external factors: culture, language, religion, land, gender, and media.
Number 4, our political systems are born from that dinner party debate on human nature between Hobbes, we are scary, we need a strong boss, and Locke, we are smart, we need a contract.
And number 5, these beliefs shape everything in our society, from who gets to vote to who gets into university.
Now we're going to turn the mic over to you. We have 3 check your understanding questions. I want you to actually pause the playback if you need to and really think about these.
Question 1. If you believe that people are naturally competitive and will probably hurt each other without a lot of strict laws, do you side more with the pessimist Thomas Hobbes or the optimist John Locke?
Question 2. Think about Marshall McLuhan's phrase, the medium is the message. How does the medium of an algorithmic social media feed change the message you receive about what's important in the world compared to, say, reading a physical newspaper?
And question 3, look in the mirror. Where do you fall on the spectrum? Right now, today. Do you lean more towards individualism, focusing on your personal freedom and success, or more towards collectivism, focusing on group welfare and sharing? Remember, there is no wrong answer.
And here is a final thought to leave you with. We talked about how culture, media, and family shape you. They hand you the puzzle pieces. But what if you actively chose to reject one of those pieces? If you took one core piece of your puzzle out and deliberately replaced it with something completely different, how would that change the entire picture of who you are?
Your ideology isn't fixed in stone. It grows and changes as you learn. So keep asking questions.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.